Let's be real, summer skin needs a little extra love, and my simple barefaced routine does the job. Barefaced summer staples are a powerhouse trio that makes my routine so easy and effective. Liquid gold brightens and hydrates. Toning pads keep my skin smooth and clear, and of course, SPF 50 is non-negotiable. Without it, your other skincare just can't do its job. As a bonus, every order comes with a full-size clean slate spritz. It's a refreshing hypochlorous mist that I keep in my bag for on-the-go cleansing. If you want a simple, powerful routine that protects your skin all summer long, this is it. Place your order today to make sure you get your free clean slate spritz. Also, be sure to use the code MAMA15 for 15% off your first order at barefaced.com. You know that funky, yeasty smell that dogs can get in their ears? I thought it was just something that came along with being a dog owner until I found Coat Defense Daily Preventative Powder. I've been using this product for a long time now on our golden retriever Tucker to keep his coat fresh and clean, but recently I started brushing a little in and around his ears, and the difference has been amazing. The smell is gone, his ears are much less irritated, and the powder, it works like a dry shampoo, so it repels dirt, eliminates odor, and now I know it does a whole lot more. There is nothing like this product in stores, so try it out and see for yourself. Visit coatdefense.com and you can get 15% off with the code MAMA15. That's MOMMA 15. And just like that, we are rooting for the Dallas Cowboys this season, and you will be too after meeting my friend Gemmi Schottenheimer. Her husband is the brand new head coach of the Cowboys, and my goodness, their journey has been an interesting one. Being a coach's wife is not for the faint of heart. You need thick skin and you cannot be afraid of change, that's for sure. You won't believe how many teams they've worked for over the years. This faith-filled family is stepping into the opportunity of a lifetime, and you can hear their gratitude in Gemmi's heart as a mom and a wife along the journey. Even if you're not a football fan, this conversation is so special. Enjoy listening in as I introduce you to my delightful friend, Gemmi Schottenheimer. Well, how nice that the commute wasn't too far.
No, it was like 1.4 miles.
That's what I was thinking.
So
we live so close to each other, and I'm so happy that we're actually getting to sit down and just, I want to hear more about your story because I've always been so curious. You know, our kids went to school at the same school, and so we saw each other a lot, and then now they've moved on and doing their adulting lives, and you've got one about a senior that's about to go to college. I know. I'll be praying for you, girl.
So
it's
many
not
emotions,
easy.
as you know. I know. I mean, it's good and bad. But,
yeah, exactly.
You know, it's all
First of all, congratulations, though. I'm so happy. I was just talking about how it's so wonderful when you see something good happen to people that you know are good people. And so I'm just so excited for your family. And I'm really looking forward to people hearing more about this journey and how you guys have gotten to where you have gotten.
It's been a journey.
Yeah,
it's been a 24-year journey, but it's been ups and downs and highs and lows and everything in between.
And I should also just thank you for taking the time because you are in probably the busiest season. I mean, even now compared to, let's say, little ones, does this feel heavier, bigger?
Oh, it feels totally different. Totally different. I think just because there's such a need for me to be in Dallas with him, with everything going on, and to be in the role that I am now, will be in, or am in, which is they call it the First Lady of Dallas, which is a beautiful thing that I do not take lightly. I feel so honored and blessed to sit in this position. But there's such a need to be there and to be doing all those things. And then I have a daughter at home who's about to graduate. And so it's trying to be mom and present for all the senior things and the parties and, you know, not wanting to miss all of that. So I would say, I've never needed a clone of me the way I need a clone of me now. Like, I literally say that. I'm like, I just need two of me right now. I can't be everywhere. But fortunately, I have an amazing village and group of people around me that just sort of, you know, help me get through this. So, and I know it's so fleeting, so it'll be so different. So I'm really trying to embrace the craziness and the madness of it all because when she goes, it's a different thing. So.
Yeah, for sure. I guess one way to look at it is what a blessing that the Lord has given you this distraction almost from, if it was just an ordinary season for the Schottenheimer household, then you would really be dwelling on, what's next? And what am I going to do in an empty house? And you're so close to your children, but you are going to be busy.
Well, it's funny that we didn't talk about this, but it was funny because in November, I truly sort of had I don't get down or sad or depressed very often, but I just sort of hit like this point in my life in November where I was like, okay, I gave up in a beautiful way what I thought was going to be my career in the NFL, because I started in the NFL working for the Redskins. They were the Redskins at the time. So I met Brian, and then I went into like I couldn't do that any longer. And so we had these children, and then I was mom, and then I was in charge of everything in our life. And then all of a sudden I could feel this, like most moms do, you feel the crunch of like your children leaving, empty nesting. And I really was like, God, I don't know. I know most women say this, but like, I don't know who I am without my children at home.
It's your identity.
It's my identity.
That you built before being a wife and mother. And then how do you embrace that again? Because your identity still matters.
Absolutely. But so much has changed from the person you were, before you had children. So all that to say, I really had a hard time in November just sort of identifying with like what my next phase was going to be. And then obviously the season didn't go as planned with the Cowboys. So I think we all just naturally thought, because this is our business, that we weren't going to be with the Cowboys next year. So when I left, I was like, literally, I remember taking like 4 suitcases out of Dallas and like, see you, Dallas, and thinking, okay, what's next? Like, what's next for me? Because he's going to go on to a different job most likely. And like, I just felt so disoriented. That's the best way that I can describe it. And I didn't have a pulse on what my life looked like for the first time in maybe forever, or a very long time. And then this happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, God, here we go. Like, I know what my role is now, you know, like I know what it is now. And I'd prayed so hard for like a sign to be like, do I go into real estate? Do I, follow my heart on some of the things I love? And then this presented itself, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, truly reminded of the verse in Jeremiah. He had a plan for you.
Absolutely. And that plan was so beautifully orchestrated and has, made me very emotional. Looking back, there's so many things along the way that it was just God lining this up for us. And, Brian had opportunities when we were younger to interview for head coaching jobs, and for a number of reasons passed a couple over. And then we had a really rough run for, 8 to 10 years where he just wasn't the hot coordinator. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. So it's kind of like, we really thought that, and we had discussed this a lot. We're like, that's opportunity has probably passed us by, and that's okay. Like, God has a totally different plan for our life, and he really had sort of like decided that he was going to mentor young coaches, and just kind of finish out his career as a coordinator or quarterback coach or something like that. So, I mean, looking back, it was so mapped out, and we didn't see it at the time. Didn't see it, had no clue. So when it happened, I think it shocked more people, the world, because it really was like, what's going on? But for us, it was like, oh, of course, yes, this is what this has all been.
I feel like that I'm in a season where I'm realizing the gift that perspective is, and you can't have it in the moment. But now when I look back and see, even in my boys' careers life, of why things happened the way they happened, and I was going through that same stage of identity, of empty nest, and, I've had this television career, but like what happens as I'm getting older, and it was so unsettling. And then the gift of this podcast came along, and
this
it's
has
just
been
like,
amazing for you.
Yeah.
And so life-giving, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And just very fulfilling. And I'm inspired by conversations with the moms I get to interview, like yourself, and just seeing all the puzzle pieces start to fit together that I felt like were really just shaken around in a box and not knowing.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just identify with that in a really beautiful way.
Oh, I feel like my life's been a puzzle box for many years. I could so identify with that. There's really moments I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? How are we doing this?
Yeah.
It's
now
crazy.
You've got that perspective to see. So I want to go back to more about your story. So you grew up as a football fan, right? Like you loved this beyond meeting a guy.
Loved it. I was such a tomboy growing up. I mean, people really are surprised about that now, but I really was such a tomboy. I played sports. I loved any sport. I was uber competitive, and my dad played football at Auburn. So growing up, that's all we knew was SEC football. So I loved it, breathed it. But I loved every sport. Like I was, as a young child, or young girl, I would sit out in the driveway with my dad and listen to LSU basketball games, sitting in the driveway, like in our car radio. So I mean, I grew up in a very competitive household, just with like sports and loving anything that was a competition. So I'd always had a desire to work in sports, but I really didn't think it would ever happen. I felt like that was such a political job to be able to do something like that. So I never really pursued that.
And I feel like at the time there weren't a ton of women. Like I kind of wanted to be a sports reporter.
Yeah.
And I did at the University of Tennessee work in the sports department and did all of the UT football stuff, and it was so fun. But I didn't really see an opportunity for a career in athletics.
Right. Well, it really wasn't. I mean, I would say there was, many women who paved the way, but it was not really a big thing when I was growing up. It wasn't really an opportunity or something that I ever felt like I had an avenue to pursue that. So I randomly got this job with the Redskins prior to them hiring my father-in-law. And so I was there and working for the president of the team. And then they hired Marty.
You were working for the Redskins before Marty Schottenheimer was.
Yes, I was there actually before Marty.
That.
Yes, and they hired Marty. And it's a funny story. He didn't have an assistant when he was first hired. Well, even better part of the story was I grew up such a big football fan, and I loved the Cleveland Browns when I was really a big SEC girl, but professional football, I loved the Cleveland Browns because I loved Bernie Kosar and Webster Slaughter. So I fast forward, I was in 7th grade, I believe, and we went on a trip to Atlanta and stayed in the same hotel as the Cleveland Browns and had the opportunity to meet Marty randomly in an elevator when I was in 7th grade. And just was like, "Hi, Coach, nice to meet you." So then fast forward, I'm hired by the Redskins, and Marty does not have an assistant, so he just kind of meanders over to my desk one day. He's like, "Hey, I can't operate this phone. Can you help me?" So I became his assistant for like the first month that he was there, and I was on his voicemail. I mean, I did everything for him, having no idea that he was going to hire his son. So one day I was looking for Marty for a press conference, and I went across the building to get him, and I just happened to have on a suit that day. And I saw a coach standing in a doorway. I was like, "Excuse me, have you seen Coach Schottenheimer?" And he's like, "No, but I bet this guy could help you." And so I kind of lean in, and it's Brian, who I don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is. And I'm like, "Hey, have you seen Coach?" And he's like, he's unpacking boxes, and literally his office is a mess. And he's like, "No, but I could give you his cell phone number." And I'm like, "No, I'm good." I'm on his voicemail. Of course I have his cell phone number.
So meaning you're the voice that says you've reached the voicemail of Marty Schottenheimer.
Yes, but he doesn't know that. And I didn't feel the need to be like, "Oh, that's my voice,"
Yeah.
And so I was like, "That's okay." And I saw a Florida Gator football on his desk. And I said, "Oh, did you happen to see the score of the Auburn-Florida basketball game last night? My parents went to that game." This was back when you didn't have Twitter and all that stuff. I was like, and I missed SportsCenter, so I don't know who won. And he was like, all the while he's thinking, it's funny to hear him tell the story. He's like, "Wow, this girl comes in my office and she's in a suit and she's professional and she's talking about sports." And so he was kind of like
every man's dream.
Yeah, we were both just kind of like, there was a moment we're both like, whoa. So anyway, he goes, "I didn't see it." He goes, "I don't know who won." And I said, "Did you go to Florida?" And he said, "I did." And I said, "Well, Danny Werfel was from my hometown, across the bridge actually." But, and I said, "Yeah, great guy, followed his career and all that stuff." He goes, "Well, Danny was my roommate on the road." So anyway, we exchanged pleasantries, whatever. This is an honest to God true story. All my children, I tell everyone this, my mom can verify. And I saw Brian throughout the day a couple of times, and we would just look at each other and be like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And really had this immediate connection. And about 5:00 that afternoon, I called my mom and I said, "Mom, I met this guy today." And I had just come out of a 5-year relationship that was not an easy breakup. And the first thing she thought was, "Oh my gosh, she's met a football player. She's met a player. She can't get involved with a player, And I said, "Mom, it's so crazy." I said, "I can't tell you why, but I had this connection with him, and all I can tell you," quote, "is I want him in my life in some capacity for the rest of my life." And she went, and my full name is Gemmi Ann. She goes, "Gemmi Ann, what are you talking about?" And I was like, "Mom, I can't explain this." Kind of conversation ended abruptly, and then it just happened, like very organically. And then 9 months later we were engaged, and then Marty was fired that year, and Brian was fired, and we laugh about this. Brian's like, you were fired. I was like, I wasn't fired. They let me go with a severance. I wasn't fired. It was because of you. So anyway, so then he took the head coaching job in San Diego. So then we moved to San Diego and got married in June.
Okay.
So it was quick.
Yeah. I love the story though. And I bet a lot of people just assume you met Brian as a coach or, a player
or
something.
I had no idea who he was.
Yeah, you had your own job.
I had my own job.
You were your
I was there
own
first. I tell everybody I was there first.
Okay, I'm going to read through these teams. You just mentioned you went from the Redskins to the Chargers, right? Okay, so these are the teams in no particular order that the Schottenheimer family has been associated with. You and Brian. Okay,
a lot.
This is crazy. The Redskins and the Chargers, but also the Colts, the Jaguars, the Rams, the Jets, the Seahawks, the University of Georgia for a little bit.
For 9 months.
The Chiefs.
Marty. And Brian worked there, yes.
He worked there for a little bit.
But yes, Brian, yes, correct.
Syracuse.
Yep, Brian was Syracuse.
USC. And Dallas.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So I wasn't USC, Syracuse, or the Chiefs, or the Rams. Brian was early on with the Rams when Dick Vermeil was there. But so he had 2 stints with the Rams. But yep, how crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
I think we counted how many teams. I think maybe I've lost count. Maybe it's 8 teams married and then 16 homes, I think.
Oh my goodness, that's how many moves there have been. Yeah.
And sometimes within a city, like, sometimes we move, like in New York, we moved from Jersey or from Florham Park to New Jersey. But 16.
Yeah. Wow.
16
You think about a military family, we all associate, they're going to be transient and move a lot. My husband was in healthcare and we moved a lot just for healthcare and, moving up the ladder meant moving to different towns and cities. And so I always felt like we move a lot, but I don't think any of it compares to what an NFL coach's wife deals with.
Well, you really look at it. It's like you look at it with the lens of like, this is our contract. So like with the Cowboys, we have a 4-year deal in Dallas. So you have to look at it like this is the next 4 years of your life, knowing that if things don't go well, there's always that you could be fired after a year, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So I do think that's what's really beautiful about us having Nashville and have had Nashville since 2012 because we've just always had a home base to come home to. An older coach, actually one of Peyton Manning's O-line coaches, Tom Moore, gave us some advice when we were really young, and he said, I strongly suggest that you find somewhere, a place that you love, buy a small place, if it's a condo, if it's a small house, and make that your home base because you are going to be hired, fired 100 times in this business. And just have a place that you can scoop your children up and go if things get really, really bad. And so I'm so thankful that that's been Nashville for us for a long time.
And you really settled here. And even though he had a lot of different moves, you were with him as much as you could be. But you guys made a decision as a couple that our kids are going to have a home base and they're going to not doubt where home is.
Because for the longest time, our kids felt like the beach at 30A was like their home base, was home, because that was like the constant every year. For several times a year, we went to 30A. So for a long time, they felt like that felt like home. And then we made the decision in 2012, we were here for 4 years, and then we left Nashville for 4. And I always say that Nashville was like a blessing and a curse because it blessed us immensely when we were here the first time and met so many people that everywhere we went after Nashville, it just wasn't Nashville. And living here, I'm sure you know that, but like it's such a special place. But having that just sense of community and place that we could always come home to, win, lose, or draw, was just such a gift to my kids. And I think it was Sutton's going into 8th grade, we just made the decision. We were living in Seattle, and it was just it was a tough transition to move to Seattle. It was just so different than anything we'd ever done, and so far from everybody. And my kids just looked at Brian and they just said, Daddy, we love and support your career, but we don't want to do this anymore. And so we moved him back to Nashville, and I commuted to Seattle for 2 seasons, one which of COVID, didn't get to go during COVID, but 2 seasons, I never missed a home game. Not one. From Nashville to Seattle. Never missed a game.
I can't imagine what your Sky Miles look like.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy in Alaska. But, we had such a village of my parents coming in or Brian's family coming in and watching the kids, or the kids would go, or, you just make it work. I mean, it's not for everybody.
You know that funky, yeasty smell that dogs can get in their ears? I thought it was just something that came along with being a dog owner until I found Coat Defense Daily Preventative Powder. I've been using this product for a long time now on our golden retriever Tucker to keep his coat fresh and clean, but recently I started brushing a little in and around his ears, and the difference has been amazing. The smell is gone, his ears are much less irritated, and the powder, it works like a dry shampoo, so it repels dirt, eliminates odor, and now I know it does a whole lot more. There is nothing like this product in stores, so try it out and see for yourself. Visit coatdefense.com and you can get 15% off with the code MOMMA15. That's MOMMA 15. With all of the moves, is it hard though to is there a little bit of you that is guarded when you go into a new city? And, I know this role is going to be a little bit different, of course, but again, it's a 4-year contract.
Right.
And getting attached to people, to other coaches' wives, to the players' wives, to the community, and just really digging in. Do you kind of go in a little bit guarded?
I think I've become more guarded through the years. I mean, I grew up where people loved me for me. You either loved us or didn't love us. There was nothing, we had nothing attached to us that would make anybody, want to be friends with us for any ulterior reasons. And so I think I've had to learn through the years that some people have those motives. And so I've had to sort of just try to hone in on when I feel like people are being authentic and when they're not. And I think when my kids were younger, I was just like, oh my gosh, the more the merrier. I plugged in everywhere. And I think a lot like the military, you have an instant group of women. So you connect with the coaches' wives and the players' wives and the organization. And so you have that. And so that's an instant in wherever you are. And then your kids, obviously you plug in. I do think I guess this is the higher you are up in a position, the harder it is to let everybody in. And I've had to learn that the hard way, that we just have to be a little more guarded. There's just a little more privacy, I think, that comes with especially this role. And that's been a unique situation for me because I'm sort of I think I'm just still the more the merrier. I love that.
Even, I guess, looking for a home in Dallas, for example, you probably look at it through a different lens, right?
Totally. We had to have a gated community. That was so important because there are crazy people who try to, get to your home. And
fans can be
intense.
Absolutely.
And the Cowboy fans are very, very, very intense and very loyal and very faithful. And that's just all part of it. And that's a good thing. But yeah, it was very different. We had to just find something that he felt like I wanted him to be able to drive through the gate and come home and just shut it all off. And so we found that really.
Yeah. It wasn't easy though, was it?
I mean, I've been looking since February and just found it.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't something that was not even, out there on the market. So it was really just another little God wink of okay, here you go.
Right.
So it's exciting.
Tell me a little bit about your support role of Brian and through the years, the good days, the bad days, and kind of how you've helped to keep him. I know that's a big part of your role as his wife is,
right.
Keeping him positive and, and your kids and with all the change and the uncertainty that comes along with what he does for a career.
So I've been so blessed. My mother-in-law, I had her as a role model and a mentor, and I just watched early on how she handled Marty in that role for many years. And I would say that I think that she, of any head coach's wife or coach's wife I've ever met, was masterful at it. She truly was masterful. She was able to create a home so that, Marty never had to he never had to mow the lawn. He never had to do anything. She had everything done so that when he walked through the doors, because the hours are grueling, when he walked through the doors, he could just be off and he could just be dad and papa and friend and brother and whatever. And so I really learned early on that I had to take on a lot more than I really ever thought that I was going to. And now it's we kind of laugh. Brian's I when he tries to do something, it's kind of no, I got it, or you don't know how to change a light bulb.
Because you've been running the household
for so long.
Yeah.
So it's been I feel like I don't know that I would have done it as well as I think I've done it. And I say that very humbly, but I do know that of all the things in my life, I think I've done that right. I've created a space where it's safe for him, and and it's funny because the way he relaxes on game weekends is to have people that we love in our home. Like when it's quiet and it's not family or close friends, he kind of goes, he's a little stir crazy. But if it's our people, he is calm as a cucumber and still that way. So I think I've just sort of had to learn like what works for us. Keeping my kids off of like social media early on, although it's gotten so much different than it was when my kids were, high school. And I also think that like living in Nashville and our kids not having to hear where dad was coaching his name on the radio or being talked about at school. No, I mean, they went to BA and no one talked about the Seahawks or, wherever we were. Yeah. So that was really nice. That was a little bubble. I was able to protect them.
Yeah, another advantage of being in a different city to where they don't see or hear the headline every day of the negativity.
Well, it's funny because a few years ago, and I won't say how it happened, but a few years ago, he had an opportunity to coach with the Titans. And we talked to our kids about it, and they both said, no way, Dad. And he's like, but I would be home every night. And they're like, sorry, we love you, but we don't want to do that.
Wow, that's a really mature lens to look at that through.
I know.
Wow.
It was and we respected that. We respected that's how they felt, that they wanted their lives to be separate from what he did, because it's hard on kids. I mean, kids are ugly and adults are ugly and so it's hard. But I just think trying to stay as as centered as possible. Like our kids are very rooted in who God made them and like who we are as a family, and so they really don't let that outside noise get to them, which I'm really proud of them, because it certainly could. Now we're in a totally different role right now, so this is going to be a lot different, but they're older. I think they can handle it a little better now than they could have.
Yeah, I mean, even that feels like a blessing in the timing of how this has happened, and that your kids are kind of doing their own thing, and the maturity and the way that they kind of will be able to play almost a role that will be unique because of the ages they are. Mm-hmm. Maybe it won't be as hard on them as it might have been when they were younger.
Yeah, I think I think that's so true. And again, I think, the way this whole thing lined up, like truly this is so God, because we're going to be empty nesters. This is going to take the both of us to really make this thing, go the right way, the way we want it to build the culture we want to bring to the Cowboys and do all the things that we want to do. And I just don't know that we would have had that if it had happened a year ago or 2 years ago. So again, it's just, the whole thing is just God all the way through. So it's been crazy. It's been beautiful.
What are you looking forward to in your role as the First Lady of the Dallas Cowboys, but in supporting, for example, the other wives or things that maybe you learned from Pat, or tell me a little bit about stepping into this role.
Well, I will first tell you that nothing prepares you for it. Like you think, and I thought for all of these years that, I'll be so good. I know I've watched Pat do it. I've watched, all these women that I admire, Tammy Reed, but nothing quite prepares you for like what that feels when it's on you. So I can't even imagine, like I really say, like I can't imagine what my husband truly feels on a day-to-day basis, good and bad. Like it's beautiful and it's a lot, but he handles pressure so masterfully. So I don't worry about him. I think more than anything is Brian and I have always prided ourselves on creating a culture that it's one family of we're all in this together. It's so hard what we do. Like it's so hard. It's high highs, low lows. And to do it with the people that you have brought together, because he chose the staff, to bring their families, to ask their families to move from wherever they are, to uproot their lives, to come to Dallas and be a part of what we're trying to do is a big thing. And we recognize that. So I think I'm so excited to just create a culture of women who get it and understand what each other is walking through. Don't have to be best friends every day, but that when we come together, we're all moving in the same direction and we're all chasing the same thing while supporting each other and knowing that what we do is really, really, really hard. I've always said, like, there's 32 head coaches in the world. So I'm one of 32 women who really understand what my husband's walking through. There's 32 offensive coordinators of the NFL. And so I think it's a unique position that we're in, 32 quarterback wives, so it's just so different our jobs are so different. They're so public. And so I think what we're so excited about is just to bring everybody together and create a culture that everyone's moving in the same direction and feels a part of this, which is what Marty and Pat did in Kansas City and Cleveland. And to this day, we still have people say nobody did it like they did. Like they were just so. Tammy Reed and Andy Reid have done a phenomenal job in Kansas City, which is a lot like what Marty and Pat did.
Kind of creating a family culture of these coaches and their families.
Yes, you just feel like you're one big family. Even though everybody has very different lives and children at very different ages and different stages of life, you still understand how unique this job is, and you're walking through it together. So I'm so excited about that. I'm just excited to really honor God in everything. Because this, when I tell you, I mean, our story and this whole story, just the way the whole thing happened was just, it truly is such a God thing. And I hope that we can honor God in everything that we do, because that is truly what is at the basis of our life, is our faith. It drives everything. I can't imagine living without it. So I'm excited to really just keep him on the forefront of everything that we do and make it a really big, loud call. You know, this is who we are.
I was just thinking about, I got a little gift for you that, or have some things from the people who sponsor the podcast, and they're so generous. But I wrote a little note in there, and I was just thinking when you said that, what I wrote was how special it is to get to watch God expand your platform so that you guys are going to be able to shine even brighter for him. Yeah. And I know that that's the ultimate goal for you.
That is so important. I remember the night that we found out that we got the job. Wow, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. When he got called across the street to go talk to Jerry, we were going to find out if this was actually going to happen. I felt so helpless. I did not know what to do. And so On Time God, the song On Time God, had been mine and my kids, it was just a lifeline for us, like the 3 weeks of the whole interview process. I just kept listening to it about just like, he always shows up, and like whatever this is, he will show up through all of this. And the night that it happened was a Friday night of all nights, and I didn't know what to do because he was across the street with Jerry. So I went to Nordstrom, and I was like, I can't be here. I don't feel right.
Any woman would do,
I know. I was
right?
like, I'm so stressed. I need some retail therapy. And then I got there, and I was like, I can't concentrate. I can't shop. This is so silly. And I got in the truck, and his truck, and I drove to the Star where he was inside with the Dallas brass. And I just listened. I drove around the Star. I think I counted 30 times, the radius of the Star, listening to On Time God over and over, never changed a song. And I just prayed. I was like, God, if this is your will, like, we will honor you, and we will, put you at the forefront if this is the way it's supposed to happen. And it did. And so that's a promise I made to him that night. And I hope that I can live up to that, because that was really, really special.
Golly, that's got me crying. That's so special.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Will you tell me about the phone call?
Yes.
Were you in the car?
I was in the
still
car.
Still driving?
Well, so the funny thing is I was still driving around, and the first phone call was from Brian, and he had our agent Gemmi Schottenheimer on the phone. So we had a three-way about just about some of the negotiation, and still not knowing if it was really going to happen, just because there's always a negotiation process.
Were you listening to, like, we're listening to ESPN and everybody breaking news, all the things. Were you trying to stay away from that?
I'd taken all social media off of my phone.
Oh, wow.
For the last week going into leading up to Friday. I think I took it off on Monday. So there's no Twitter, there was no Instagram, there was nothing. Okay. It was just like, I just needed to just be with my children. Sassy actually didn't go to school for a couple of those days. We just wanted to all be together because he was in Dallas, and I just felt like we needed to be together. So Sutton, Sassy, and I we would go to the gym together. We would go to the grocery store together. We'd go eat together. We stayed together for especially like 4 days.
I think that speaks to the weight, though. This was literally about to change your entire family's life.
I mean, the magnitude of it was. I felt it then, just like I thought I felt it then. But I knew that it was going to be life-changing if this, in fact, happened. And so so the first phone call was, Brian called, he said, and I know his voice, so he's like, hey. And I was like, oh, gosh, this is good. And he's like, I got Gemmi on the phone. So then we talked about just some stuff, different scenarios. And then Brian was going back in to, to talk about things. And at this point, I was just like, I just thought, I don't know. I just don't know how this is gonna go. I mean, I had a feeling, but I was really just kind of like, this could go either way, God, whatever's meant to be, And I pulled into our parking spot. I had actually been driving around for literally 30 times I counted. And I was like, you know what? this could go all night. I'm going to go. Our condo was across the street from the Star, so I could see the Star, literally see the Star. I pulled into our parking space, and I turned off the car, and my phone, it's Daddy Schottenheimer in my phone, and I saw it, and it said Daddy Schottenheimer, and I actually took a screenshot of that. I took a moment, and I thought, this is going to change our life. If this happens, one way or another, it's probably going to change our life. And I just had a moment of like, okay, God, I just, just give me the, the wisdom to be able to handle this, however this goes. And I said hello, and it was Brian, and he's like, in the voice again, he's like, hey babe, I got someone that wants to talk to you. And I was thinking it was our agent again, and it was Mr. Jerry, and he's like, hey Gemmi, and I was like, hey Mr. Jerry, and he's like, well, congratulations. Y'all, your husband is the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And literally, Jennifer, I don't remember anything after that. I know he told me a story. I know I talked, but it was like, it's like that feeling of like, and I just felt my whole, like, it was like truly like an out-of-body experience. And funny enough, Sassy had stayed back in Nashville because they had Coho that night, and she wanted to go to that, and they had a basketball game. CPA was playing Lipscomb. She's like, I really want to go to this, but I'm going to come to Dallas first thing Saturday morning. And so Sutton had already landed. He was in with our driver, driving him to our condo. So I have this conversation with, I don't even hear from my husband that he's gotten the job. Jerry tells me. And so my husband, Brian, does not get back on the phone. And so I'm like, I hang up the phone, and I just sat there for a moment. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, wow. I mean, and I, was very, very emotional, got myself together, could see on Life 360, the Sutton was like 3 minutes away. I didn't want to tell him downstairs in front of like our doorman and the people that are at the front. I wanted to sort of make that a little sacred moment. So I walk out to the driver, and he's looking at me like, do we know anything? And I was like, Dad's still in. So pull his luggage up. We go up to the elevator to our condo. We walk in the door, and I turned around and I said, your daddy is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And I fell apart, and he fell apart. And it was like, at that point, then it was like, okay, get our family on the phone. So we started Zooming on my phone. We got a computer, because I wanted to tell our family before ESPN got it, before it broke. Well, Sassy had called, side note, Sassy had called right before Sutton got there. And she's like, Mommy, Huddy had walked outside of the gym at the basketball game. She's like, do we know anything? And I was like, no, he's still in. And actually, she called before I knew. So she called, and I said, well, he's still in. I will call you the minute I know. So we start getting everyone on the phone. Sassy's the first one. Sassy and Huddy run outside. She takes the call.
That's
we tell
her.
Yes, that's a chance. Yes. Shout out to Huddy. And so anyway, so we get our whole family on the Zooms, and it was really, what's really special was the Jones family wanted to have that time to tell their family too. So they took time to make sure everybody in their family knew. And then they got the news to I think it was Adam Schefter. And so as we're on a Zoom with our family, the news breaks. And literally, it's like, I can't even tell you, it's like, and then the Sutton's phone's blowing up. My phone's ringing like I'm trying to talk to our parents. Everyone's crying. And then, so Sassy's outside, and then we kind of get off that conversation, and she walks back into it's so great to hear her tell the story. She and Huddy walked back into the CPA gym, and by this time word had spread, because everyone's waiting, to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And the gym erupted when she walked in. Teachers, students, everybody was clapping and screaming, and just ran up to her. And she's like, Mommy, as much as I would have loved to have been in Dallas for that moment with y'all, because we'd been together, I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Oh,
she's like, that was so special for me to walk in and have my friends there. So anyway, so then Sutton and I just celebrated. A couple friends came over, and then I didn't see Brian until midnight that night, because he stayed across the street, with them. So it was a really, really special night.
I'm so happy for you. I can't believe I'm tearing up over Bob's story. I'm just sitting over here drying tears. What 32 teams in the NFL, what does it mean that it's the Dallas Cowboys?
Wow, it means a lot. It's such a storied franchise, and there's so much history there. It's such a enormous brand, and but I think more than anything, for us just to be able to be a part of such an incredible organization with so many beautiful people and storylines, and just the family, the Jones family. When I tell you, they are some of the most incredible people I've ever been in the presence of. They're amazing human beings. Their family is so close. Their family, all the families involved. Everybody has a different role, and I so often say they're just so much like us. Like they love well, they love their people well. So I think for Brian and I, it really sort of takes our breath away. Sometimes we're like, wow, this is such a gift, and just to be a part of this is so amazing. And I think it's an incredible opportunity. I think it's sometimes still kind of like we haven't really we have these moments where like, does this really happen to us?
Sure.
Like, I mean, oh my gosh, but it's an incredible opportunity. One that we do not take lightly. And I think that, I hope that I told Mr. Jerry this the night that we got the job. I said, we will make you proud. I said, I promise you, we will not let you down.
I love that.
So that's really important to us,
What's a fun perk that comes with being the head coach and wife of the Dallas Cowboys?
I get a suite after all these years. I get a suite in the state.
Is this the first time?
Yes.
That you'll have your own suite.
My own suite. Which is really great because I'm such a crazy wife on game day. Like I am all in. I need my own space. And that's been kind of a joke with Gemmi Sexton, our agent, through the years. I'm like, finally after 24 years, I get my own suite. No, it's fun. I think just more than anything, just to, I'm so competitive, and I can't imagine life without this in our life. And so I think now to be able to truly do it at the highest level is so exciting to me. It's so like, it's like a huge adrenaline rush when I think about it. Like it's so exciting. That's the best part of it, is we get to go out and compete, and, Brian gets to do what he's so incredibly good at.
Yeah. I know you've got to be just so happy for him.
Oh my gosh.
I loved a quote from his mom, who, when she was interviewed, that said, I just am excited for people to get to know who he is because he's a good man. And then she said, he's a really good man.
He's an amazing man. He's the most selfless man I've ever met in my life. I mean, to be able to live apart from your family as often as we have done this back and forth, and, a year together and then 2 years long distance, like, he's just the most incredible human I've ever met. I mean, I think that's what's kind of hard sometimes about coaches. You don't often get to see like the stamp they put on people and on people's lives. But he's just he cares so deeply about people, and about doing the right thing, and walking through life, always doing the right thing. Like, I mean, I learned very on, like, taking the high road and doing the right thing. It may be the road less traveled, but it will serve you well in life so often. And he just lives his life the right way. He loves the Lord. It's the most important thing. And he loves his family and his friends exceptionally well.
I don't think people realize the sacrifice either. I know. And I'll take this out if I'm wrong on this part, but Sutton played football for a little while.
He did.
But he never got to see that, right?
He didn't get to see a lot of it. It was actually when Sutton was playing, I guess it was when we moved back to Nashville. So I guess 8th grade, we hired a company here in Nashville to like video his games. And so then they would do it, produce it, and like ship it overnight so he'd get to see it. But no, he didn't. Kirk Herbstreit was the one that kind of gave us that idea, because Kirk never got to see the boys play.
Yeah,
because he
I
was
thought about that
always
before,
gone
too.
on game day weekends. And so when we heard Kirk did that, Brian's like, I'm going to do that. So, he missed a lot, but I've always said my family mantra is we're quality, not quantity. We may not have as much time as every other family, but when we are together, we are, and anyone that knows us knows, we are all in together. It is hunker down. We have to say no. We have to be kind of selfish and be like, sorry, Brian's in town or Dad's in town or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just hunker down. So, because there are families who are together every single day, and they don't really appreciate that time together. And I
Right.
think we've just always appreciated every single moment that we've had together because it hasn't been normal, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think my kids would tell you they wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. They have a very special and unique relationship with him because they don't see him every day, you know, and didn't see him every day. But thank goodness for like Zoom and FaceTime and, you know,
yeah, a whole
you
different
feel like
way
you don't miss
than-
a lot, I think,
Yeah,
sometimes.
you think about how when Marty had that career and missing his boys,
Oh, yeah.
who were, you know, incredible athletes. And then now, you know, at least you have the technology that helps you guys not to miss
Absolutely.
things.
We don't miss, you know, we don't,
Yeah.
we FaceTime 10 times a day,
Yeah.
you know, so that's really great. We're just super intentional. You have to be.
I also think I'll wrap with this, but yay for blue and white, right?
I know. Oh my God. And
team
stars.
colors.
Stars are my favorite.
And it looks so good on you.
I love stars. I love blue and white. I know. It's so exciting.
Well, I'm excited for the season ahead, and it's really cool when you got a personal connection, you know,
know,
because
it is.
we're a sports-loving family, but when you've got that little connection and you know,
I
then
well, I told Connor and the boys, and I mean this, y'all, especially now, y'all have to come to a game.
oh
I'd
my
love to have
goodness,
you. That
I
would be so fun.
love that so
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for you guys.
Well,
and
thank
just
you for having
really
me.
happy.
I'm so happy.
And I know you're going
have
to use
this
this big
time.
step up of a bigger platform to glorify God, and that is the most wonderful part.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We
Thanks,
wouldn't be
Gemmi.
here without him. So
Thank you.
thank you. Loved our time.